Welcome to another episode of the Daddy is Project podcast. In today's episode, we have multiple costume changes. We start in these clothes, which we are right now, and then we change, back again. Just to liven up the viewership. If you're listening, it won't make any difference. But if you're watching, man, we're looking good, baby, in multiple sets of clothes.
I'm also changing houses.
And changing houses, yes. Yeah, absolutely. My daughter's in a musical right now, and they're talking about all the, set changes and costume changes and hair changes and all that. And we're like, yeah, let's do that. Let's add that to the episode. Yeah. Anyways, today's episode, briefly, is about another post that Evan saw that we did not fact check. And Evan took as full faith. But no, it's not one of those ones. It's not an actual surgeon something or other. That was hilarious. Last episode, go check it out. It's Gary Vee, one of my dudes. I talk about him all the time. We mention him in the book a few times too, but he talks about he releases a post that says basically we're coddling our kids and we're creating adult children, and I believe that is the case. And so we just dive deep into that, talk about what to do to not allow that to happen to our kids, how to let our kids figure out how to deal with stressful situations in a safe environment so that when it happens when we're not around, that they're able to manage that better and just be a better person. Warning, this podcast may cause excessive dad jokes, sudden bursts of motivation, and the irresistible urge to high-five yourself.
Welcome to the Daddy's Project, where we help dads master the biggest and messiest project of your life, dadhood.
I'm Scott Batcher, recovering perfectionist, dad of one teenage girl, and a guy who once didn't sleep for 6 months straight.
And I'm Evan Hill, professional chaos coordinator, dad of 3 teenagers, and living proof that duct tape can fix a sippy cup temporarily.
Each week, we'll hit you with real talk, dad hacks, and the kind of inspiration that doesn't require matching socks.
Ready to level up? Let's build this dad life together.
We're going to talk about this post by Gary Vaynerchuk. Is that how you say his name?
Gary Vee, baby.
Gary Vee. Gotta love this guy. Makes a living off of talking. What he talked about was how kids are growing up too late, like having a man child. And he was expressing how much of a problem this is to have, a 26-year-old that really doesn't know how to navigate life. And it got me thinking about some of the things that I've seen and heard as a dad. And recently a friend of mine was telling me that his wife, so they have 3 kids, and his wife would do everything for his kids. So clean up after meals, laundry, and then she ended up going back to work. She went back to work in teaching, and so she wasn't around. And so he was at home the majority of the time.
He's like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, he'd walk in the kitchen and like not a single dish would be done. Like they'd eat and so on, and they'd just leave everything. Yeah. And it's like, well, obviously, right? Like if you spent their entire life teaching them this way.
So how old are the kids now? Ish.
Yeah. So 20.
Oh, okay. All right. 7, 4, 20. Okay.
20.
Right.
18 and
don't worry too much. Just, they're
actually
older.
I think like 20, maybe 22, 20 and 18 or 17, somewhere around there.
Okay. So so full, adult-ish.
Yeah. And
it's a good concept to bring across, right? Gary Vaynerchuk is I think this guy is so cool. I just love this guy. If you don't know him, check him out. We talked about him. I talk about him all the time. Ev must be sick of me talking about him.
All the time.
His shtick is he wants to buy the New York Jets. He wants to make enough money to buy the New York Jets. he might even have enough money to do that now, but it's a good marketing tool to talk about. But he's constantly he's a very entrepreneurial guy, and he says it like it is, and that's why I love his stuff so much. And in this particular post that Ev sent me, the way that I think about it is like the cotton wool scenario. Have you heard of that? Like, don't wrap your kids in cotton wool.
No.
No, okay. I've been here almost as long in Australia as I was in Canada, so it's this weird situation. I'm like, is that an Australian thing or not? I'm not sure. Maybe it is, but the term is called "wrap your kids in cotton wool," and the idea behind that is basically don't let them do anything, right? Because they might hurt themselves. And this is like another example of that. I believe the cotton wool scenario is from like a physical standpoint, like directly, but even more importantly is from a mental standpoint. And I believe that, well, in the post, he says he's like talking to this 26-year-old guy about entrepreneurship. And in a 5-minute conversation, the guy's mother calls him 3 times because he's not at home. And Gary's like, dude, you're 26 and your mom is calling you because you're not home. Like, first of all, what are you doing home at 26? Which, it's becoming more and more common. I'm not necessarily saying that's a problem, but you got to grow up. And it's not his fault. It's the parents' fault. So I think in this situation here, this is what we're talking about is don't wrap your kids in cotton wool. Don't do everything for them because it's not serving them and it's not serving you. Because on some level, there's got to be some resentment around that as a parent. And then on their level, it's just not good. It just is not a good thing to have these kids, particularly boys, I believe. I could be wrong on that, but even more so, boys are being coddled and wrapped in cotton wool, and they don't have a clue what to do in the world. They get thrown out in the world, they're going to get eaten by the wolves.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with the, like, thinking about the kids and what do you want them to be able to do when they say go to university? Do you want them to be able to make their own meals, do their laundry, clean up after themselves, and all those things? And it's going to start with them doing it on a daily basis at home. So like for us, our kids, they do a lot. Like they run their laundry, they make meals. I mean, we make, my wife and I, we make dinner, but they make their lunches for themselves. They make their breakfast for themselves. And there's times where my wife and I go out and they make their own dinner, or if we're away for a couple of days, they make their own dinner and they do the whole cleanup. Like they don't leave anything for us. And the idea really is to prepare them. So they know how to make, an arsenal of different meals for themselves when they go to university, or they move out on their own, whatever it may be, and be able to like run a house. That's basic.
Yeah. It's, I think
so basic.
There was another post or something about a guy, I think he was a military guy, and he was giving a university graduation speech or something. And he said, like, number 1 rule, make your bed.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a funny one because I don't make my bed.
Does your daughter make her bed? Does your daughter make her bed?
She does actually. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, interesting, eh?
Who's she taking after?
Yeah. But the idea still exists, right? It's like, take care of the easy stuff first, because if you're not doing that, life's going to go to shit. And if they go to uni and they haven't learned this stuff, they're going to figure it out, but they're going to not necessarily figure it out the right way, right? And from a parenting perspective, the huge one is teaching our kids how to, do things correctly, get through life better, not necessarily easier, but better. And so if we can take the time when they're at home to teach them, for example, how about food, right? Are they going to be cooking healthy meals at home for the family, Because if they go to uni and they're doing it on their own, they don't have any guidance. It's going to be 2-minute noodles and bullshit, right? It's going to be absolute rubbish. And even though you might have had them grow up on good food, when it's their choice and they don't know what they're doing, this is what's going to happen. You know, the same thing happens in all areas of life. Resilience is key.
That's right. Where do you think this comes from? This desire to do everything, you know, for the kids. Where do you think that's coming from? Because I see it all the time.
I think I could be wrong, but I think it's a new-ish problem. Like as in this last generation or two. Like before that, I don't think it was a thing at all. You know, even you know, growing up in the 80s, it was probably some starting to happen, and I think it probably comes back to a little bit around the comfort crisis. You know, I think there's the name of a book. Can't remember who wrote it to give him a shout out, but the idea that, you know, in the 80s, 90s, and then definitely 2000s, we became so much more comfortable in life because everything we needed was kind of right there. And maybe because of that, we can try and continue to do that for our kids. I don't know exactly where it would have come from, but I definitely think it's a new problem and getting worse.
I'm going to throw this out there. I think it's a lot of it's actually being, well, some of it, like in the case of my friend that I told you about, that was the mom just freaking doing everything for her kids. But then there's also this, like kids growing up resisting doing anything, where in the parents just accept that, you know, it's like the kids running the house and saying, I just want to get on my iPad, you know, and not do the things that are uncomfortable.
Well, and that definitely comes back to us, right? Like we probably tried to do that too. Kids try and get away with what they can.
Yeah.
And if
totally.
us as parents aren't standing up to that, if we're just like, oh, well, you know, we're not going to punish them if they're not doing their chores, or we're not going to even give them chores in the first place, then again, that's on us. That's not on them. I saw a stat, I think it was just yesterday. It was really interesting around, it was right around the time period of 2014. And they're two different, I'll call them studies. I don't know. I don't have the reference. So, you know, don't quote me on this and tell me it's wrong and whatever. But right around that time period, two different things happened. Is they did some research on, it's wrong. Yeah, it's totally wrong. I saw it on the interweb. Must be right. Why do bees have sticky hair?
Good question.
Because they use honeycombs.
Ah, good one.
Good one.
I like that one.
So these two studies, one showed they looked at how much time people spent on their own versus how much time they spent with other people.
Okay.
And before 2014, it was roughly a 1-to-1 ratio. You spent as much time alone as you did with other people. But after 2014, that dramatically rose in the spending time alone situation. And that's, you know, one main thing happened right around that time period is, well, two main things: the smartphone and social media.
Yeah.
And the other study done asked young people, you know, kids, teenagers, what did they feel like their level of being useful in the world was, right? Like, do I feel useless or not? And again, right around that same time period in 2014, the number of kids who are saying that they just feel useless in life went dramatically through the roof.
Oh, man, that's sad.
Isn't it? And getting back to the whole, you know, not letting your kids do the chores and things, in the background, that actually gives them purpose.
Yeah.
Right? If you let them stay on their iPad, scrolling through social media or all of that stuff is the major contributor to kids feeling useless in life.
Yeah.
And where does that lead?
That's
That ends up leading, down a slippery slope to
definitely,
suicide. And
definitely.
we know that suicide is the number one killer in young males.
Yeah. I was watching my kids last night, so I made dinner last night, and pretty much the deal is in our family, like if you make the dinner, you're out for cleanup. Like you get to like you can still hang out and maybe you can help if you want, but if you want to not do anything, then that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was just sitting on the couch, just relaxing, and I was just observing, and the three of them were doing the cleanup, and there's no questions asked. Like everyone just knows, like they get up, they do the cleanup, and there's a certain standard that we hold them to, and they'll try to sometimes not take it all the way there. Sometimes we have to reel them back in again. So we've been through this like for years, but now they start holding each other accountable, and then it gets to this point where there's like a sweet spot where I'm observing them and they're all chatting away, laughing, having fun, like talking about stuff. And I'm like, damn, I'm going to miss this. It's interesting. I'm going to miss dinner cleanup time.
Yeah.
How cool is that? It's not the dinner making time that I'm going to miss because I was doing that on my own anyway.
And you're going to continue to do that. You know what you're really going to miss?
What's
is
that?
them cleaning up dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Because you're going to have to do it.
That's right. I'm going to have to do it all. Like, I mean, we still have one kid, but we can't make the one kid do everything. So, yeah, we're going to be doing
Well, yes, you can.
Well, yes, I can.
Poof.
Poof.
We've got different clothes on. Ev's in a different house. Magic. Cool, hey? Now, our recording got totally messed up. Our internet went off a cliff. And so we're back to just conclude today's podcast. It's a rather short one. And we don't know exactly what we said, so we're going to try and conclude in a somewhat succinct fashion here. But we know what we did was the bomb. Our whatever 15, 20 minutes or what it was pretty good. So we're going to release it anyway because why not? It's good stuff.
That's right. Yeah, that one was inspired by Gary Vee. And it was all about, kids growing up too slow, having the 22-year-old being treated like they're 9. And really we wanted to polish this off with talking about what can we do as parents so we're in the sweet spot of helping our kids grow up. So it's not too fast where they're like working a 9-to-5 job at 9 years old and like buying the groceries and running the household. But they're also not sitting in the basement at 25-year-old just playing video games all day and wasting
building up
away.
Pizza boxes and beers.
Exactly.
And interesting, you said that exact year because Gary Vee, who this post was, or the post that he put out was kind of what inspired this episode, was he started just about full-time work at 9 years old in his dad's liquor store. And that's how he got, so he kind of has a probably somewhat warped perception of what it's like because his parents were gonna say Ukrainian, something like that. So they grew up in a hard time, and I believe his mother's parents died at an early age, so she grew up quick because she didn't have parents, and so kind of got passed on to him. So we're not saying go and have your kids working jobs at a young age, but what we are talking about is making sure that we don't do everything for them, making sure that they learn in a productive model, and that's what we can provide as parents, right? We're not their best friends. We're there to teach them life skills and how to become amazing people growing up.
Yeah, and with that, we really are doing them a favor by giving them responsibility. And, things like keeping their room clean, that's something. Like helping out with tasks around the house, whether it's doing the dishes or mowing the lawn or um, watering the plants. It could be, washing the dog, could be any of those things.
Doesn't
Um,
matter what it is, make that
no,
work for your lifestyle. But yeah, it's an interesting one because in your head, you want to sometimes as a parent kind of want to do everything for them because it just feels that way. And it's okay to do that sometimes, but like I've talked about at the beginning of the podcast with a friend of his who, has adult kids in their 20s or whatever it is, who don't even realize that what they're doing is not okay because they just grew up that way.
that's right.
And we
That's right.
only have a limited time to do this. There was a stat. I don't know. I don't know if I call it a stat, but actually, a good buddy of ours, Lawrence Tam, guy we graduated with, put this out, and it said again, don't quote me. I have no idea of the exact numbers, but it was like by the time your kid finishes high school, you will have spent 90% of the time you will ever spend with your kid.
Mm-hmm.
After high school, you only get 10% left because they
Mm-hmm.
move on, they go to college, they grow up, they get their own lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so our direct contact and our direct influence with our kids gets dramatically less. Right.
Yeah. And
So teaching them at this earlier age is so important.
so important. I'm right there. I've got a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old, and like they're going to be out of the house in 6 months. And it's like, I'm just
Not
like,
out of the house, out of the country, out of the
out of the
continent.
country. That's right. Out of the country. And it's like, wow, okay. Like, I think we've done okay. Like, I feel confident. But it's not a lot of time, to be on this end of it. And I think back at the stuff that we used to do when, they were 5, 6, 7 years old, all the things that I would make up, like I would make up artificial things to create some like tension, like simple stuff, like when they were young, like 8, 7, and 5, and they wanted to watch like a movie, for example, after dinner. And like we had a set deadline. Like we were disciplined around our bedtime and our bedtime routine and wake up routine. Like we were not like letting them like stay up super late every night or on weekends or something. Like we kept the routine going. So I was like, okay, if you want to watch the movie, that means you have to have your bath, jammies on, teeth brushed, and you've got 15 minutes. And I'd set the time and they'd be yelling at each other, Felix, we got 2 minutes left. Get down here. Like, and they're running downstairs, and it's, I could have been totally relaxed about the whole thing and there'd been but like they were working as a team and it was about getting something done and it was a task and it was just creating some level of tension, but it was in a supportive environment. And that sort of stuff can pay off later on when like the stakes are a little bit higher and it's not just about getting to that movie on, it could be, some opportunity in life that they're given that opportunity with other people and they realize that time is of the essence. And so either act and get it within the deadline or it's gone. And I was very strict about it. And if they missed the time, it was like, sorry guys.
That's funny because that really sparked a memory for me because I've only got the one kid. So it was a competition against me to get those things done.
So you
all right,
competing
3, 2, 1, go. All right, we both got to go get showers. We both got to do this. Am I going to beat you? You're going to beat me. So,
nice.
Same idea, but it was me
That's
doing
awesome.
it. So.
And we never talked about that. We just did that on our own.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. So creating a container of like, it's a safe place where you're making their lives uncomfortable. You're doing it on purpose to see how they deal with that stress. And
then, like you said, making sure that if the timer passed, it wasn't like, oh, well, you got it done in 16 minutes instead of 15, so let's just watch it anyway. It was like, there's got to be consequences. There's got to be even if you wanted to watch that movie too.
Totally. Yeah, you're like, damn it.
Man.
Break it next time. Do better. Yeah, we used to do
basically a safe place to fail.
Yeah. Yeah, and have consequences. It's really, really important. And also and also it's an opportunity to celebrate too.
Yes.
When they get it done, and it's like, hey, high fives and all that stuff. So it's like making life and everyday stuff, making a game out of it, or having some intent around it where yeah, it challenges them a little bit. It makes them act as a team. So we had this other thing that we used to do. Man, I think I wrote this we wrote this in the book. Um, when the kids were younger, getting out of the house to go to school, especially in winter, was like, wow, there was so much
Mm.
because where you live, it's no big deal. They like throw their shorts and t-shirt on and grab their lunch bag and throw their sandals on and maybe not even put any shoes on and walk out the door. Whereas at our place,
Yeah,
it
you could
was,
put your shoes on in the car on the way to school if you wanted
yeah,
to.
exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas us, we've got like, we have the getting ready for like getting dressed and all that stuff and having your breakfast and then getting your lunchbox and bringing it to the front um, and then it's snow pants, jacket, hat, mitts, boots,
Boots.
and like they're all over like they're supposed to be organized, but if they're not there, and so
Oh, and how about the boots that didn't get put by the heater the night before, so they're wet and
oh yeah,
oh
yeah,
yeah. I mean, these are
yeah,
like my kid memories because I didn't have them with my kid.
no, no,
Oh,
yeah, and like
mitts that didn't
yeah,
get taken out of the pocket, so they're still soaking
yeah,
wet.
yeah. When you add it all up for three kids, there's like 15 variables for each kid that could inevitably not happen or be missing or they missed or whatever. So I was just like pulling my hair out about this stuff. So again, I made it into a game where they had a time that if they were ready with all of those boxes checked, then they got this like check mark on the sheet of paper for that day. And they would get at the end of the week, depending on how many check marks, I would literally give them a like a cash incentive. It wasn't much. Like once they reached a certain amount of check marks, I think they got $5 and they could spend that wherever they wanted. But what happened is if they all got check marks, they got an extra bonus amount.
Mm.
So then they started like working together as a team and encouraging each other and helping each other and like, and it was like getting everybody down for that second and then out the door. And it made my life way better, but it taught them about team dynamics and so on at a very early age. And we see the benefit of that today. Um, so yeah, just getting back to these things, so you can get our kids into that sweet spot of being able to deal with tension and challenge and discomfort. Another great one is to take your kids or kid camping. Talk about like putting yourself in an uncomfortable environment and having to deal with stuff that's just not everyday things, like washing your dishes outside under a tap somewhere, who knows, like the water's going wherever, like maybe through your feet, and you've got your soap and you got nowhere to put your dish, and just stuff like that, and like building your fire and building your campsite, getting rained on and having mosquitoes biting you all over the place. Yeah, like it's important to have these elements of being uncomfortable, because I think even if you think about being, let's say, if a child is growing up in a very well taken care of house and they're everything's being done for them by their nanny and all that kind of thing, and like literally everything's being done for them, their food is being made, dishes, beds being made, all that, and then it's time to go and be in college or university. And like, I don't know about you, Scott, but my where I was living when I was going in university, it wasn't luxury. It wasn't luxury. Nothing was done for us, and it certainly wasn't polished. And I think that can be a huge shift for people too when they haven't been used to, you know, an uncomfortable living environment even for a short period of time. So yeah, I think that's all I've got to say about the topic is to be intentional about that.
Very intentional, because we're not saying deprive your kids either, right? This whole idea of like born with a silver spoon in their mouth. If I think about even my kid's life and what she's been able to do and have and all those things compared to me, and then compared to my parents, there's that ideal where their life does get easier / better, but that's where it has to be more intentional around creating these challenges and small crisis that they can figure their way out of. Because we do want to have our kids have a better life than us in every way, financially and freedom and all of those things. But I did talk about it before the great blip of last week, internet crash, the book called Comfort Crisis. And I looked it up. So here it is. So it's called, his name's Michael Easter. And it's the idea behind, because we live in such a comfort-stricken world, is that it is a crisis and we don't know how to handle bad times.
Yeah.
If I even think about the way we grew up versus, say, people who grew up in the 40s during the Second World War in Europe or something, where like every day you're thinking, are we going to get bombed? Like that is a whole nother scenario compared to the way we've lived our lives. We're not saying that's going to be a good thing, but it does create stress in people's lives that allows them to then understand how stress works and to deal with stress in the proper way. Because there's only one time you don't have stress in your life. Do you know when that is?
When you're dead.
When you're dead. That's exactly right. It's not about no stress, right? It's about handling and managing stress in the proper way. And when you're given an opportunity to do that in a safe environment, you get to learn how your body deals with stress and how your mind can deal with stress and therefore get past it. So I think that's a good way to end today's episode, is to realize, we are guardians for our kids to help them in ways that they don't realize, because kids don't know this stuff. But if we know it, then we can help guide them along the way on a better path and be better.
That's right. That's right. It's a good time to plug the book. So we plugged the Comfort Crisis book, and now it's time to plug the Daddiest Project book. Because we have a whole section in here. It's one of the pillars of Daddiest is parenting, and so it sparked this topic, and it's an important one. Obviously, the Daddiest Project being the most important project of our life is, it's what our kids are, how they're showing up in life. Has a lot to do with what we brought to the table. So go get it.
That's another episode in the books, dads. Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither was dadhood.
True story. For more tools to build your best dad life, grab our book, The Daddiest Project, or join us at daddiest.com.
And hey, if you learned one thing today, you're already winning. Even if that one thing was never trust a 3-year-old with glitter.
Words to live by. Now go forth and dad like a pro.